YouTube, what's going on? Kevin the Tech Ninja, and today have a very special video for you. Actually, every single video I make is very special, but today we're talking about the VIVO X70 Pro Plus. Now, to be honest, this phone was actually sent to me, and I didn't know much information about this phone because this isn't a phone that typically comes to America or a phone that you can just go into the store and buy. So I really stay away from those type of phones because my audience is in America. But I decided to take a look at this phone after one of my friends of mine, Viv, he said, yo, this phone is crazy, has a really good camera. You should definitely check it out. So I decided to give it an actual run and see how this phone stacks up. So I guess let's walk through how it shocked me, and we'll dive into this camera, obviously, because the camera is the big thing about this phone that everyone's talking about. So let's do it. Before I get too far in the video, if you don't know who I am a dude that loves making technology videos. So if you love anything from the smart home to the smartphone, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell notification. So let's talk about some specs of this phone right here. This is the VIVO X70 Pro Plus. There is a VIVO X70 as well, the non-Pro Plus version, and I actually have that as well. So I will be taking a look at that too. It comes in two different sizes, 128 and 256 gigabytes, and this phone retails USD around $1,100. Now it does have a QHD Plus screen, LPTO AMOLED, 6.78 inches with a 90% screen to body ratio. Has an IP68 rating, has wireless charging, Snapdragon 888 Plus, and it comes with, peep this, a 66 watt charger in the box for some insane charging. So we'll definitely have to take a look at that. And then it also has a plastic case too that you can use. On the back, it does have this quad camera setup, and we'll kind of go over that a little bit more in detail later in the video. But first of all, it does have a 50 megapixel wide with OIS, 8 megapixel periscope, which is at 5x, 12 megapixel 2x. Another thing that I was really interested in seeing, that it has this Zeiss logo on here. So the glass is made by Zeiss. If you don't know who Zeiss is a glass manufacturer. They teamed up with a lot of different companies, especially Sony, to make really good lenses. So it is using Zeiss glass. That's kind of one of the higher quality levels of glass. And of course, around the front, we do have a 32 megapixel front facing shooter. It's a 4,500 milliamp battery, and it does have the in-display fingerprint sensor at the bottom so you can get into the phone and unlock it. Look guys, already off the bat, this phone does have a lot of high-end specs, which, you know, obviously is very impressive. You know, a phone like this coming in with just such high-end specs, and it's not like a phone manufacturer that everyone knows, especially in America. So just having a phone that has all these things already is like a big plus. I mean, this phone's coming out the gate swinging for the fences, which is really nice to see. I will say, in the hand, this phone does feel premium. It is made from glass throughout the whole phone. So the front is Corning Gorilla Glass Victus, and then on the back, we have this Fluorite AG, and VIVO says that it's crystallized glass with a prismatic surface. So this back, even though it doesn't feel like glass, it doesn't look like glass either. It is glass. This is a glass phone. And down here, the VIVO logo, it's actually rubber. So it's really cool that you have this glass. Doesn't feel like glass, doesn't sound like glass, but it's frosted. And then you have this glass element up here next to the lenses. Now, some people are saying that this could double as a mirror. I'm not gonna go that far because the reflection isn't that great for it to be a mirror, but you do have this kind of like design right here. And this is definitely like old school fingerprinty glass, because this will get tons of fingerprints, and I wipe this thing down a lot. You do have your speaker grills at the bottom. You have your USB-C port. You have your volume rocker on the side. You have your power button on the side. And that is about it. And also you can kind of see the camera bump here. Camera bump is definitely there. I wouldn't say it's anything out of the ordinary at this point after dealing with Samsung's phone like the S21 Ultra. You know, this camera bump I don't hate. I gotta be honest, I don't hate the camera bump. Sort of used to it by now, and I don't think it's horrible. Some people don't like how the phone looks. I think it looks great. I think the biggest struggle for me with this phone has been the size. As you guys know, if you follow my channel, I tend to like smaller phones like 6.1, 6.3. This is huge. This is 6.78. So it's a pretty large phone. One thing I've noticed about this phone, it doesn't have great palm rejection. And so since this display is curved, your palm will sometimes hit different elements on the phone. And then what happens is you're doing things you don't want to do. I found myself opening the camera on accident a lot when I was just using the phone typing. My palm would sort of hit the camera, or other things would happen. I'll hit the back arrow and stuff like that. I mean, these are things that obviously can be fixed with software. I didn't immediately see a setting for that, so it wasn't anything I could just turn off, but that is something to be aware of. Also, there's a lot of bloatware on this phone. This phone did come with a lot of apps that I don't plan to use and things that you may have to just eventually get rid of. It's just one of those things that some phones will come with those things. So if you go under hot apps, there are different apps in here that you may not be accustomed to using, and things that are not even on the phone. You press get to download it, but at the same time, they're just kind of sitting there already. So it's not the end of the world that you have sort of this bloatware, but it is kind of, you know, I don't like it. You're spending 1,100 bucks for a phone. I don't want to have bloatware on there. I want to have apps that are relevant to what I use every day. But once again, that's not a huge deal. I would say as far as like day-to-day use using this phone absolutely flies. So of course you have the high resolution screen, but beyond that, you have that LPTO screen that allows you to have the high refresh rate too. So, you know, flipping between apps always feels great, always feels fast. Everything you launch pretty much opens instantly. Now, some apps do have to reload in the background, which happens more common than I would like it to see, as apps are sort of closing in the background. But for day-to-day usage and most people, these are things that a lot of people wouldn't notice. I will say there has been some inconsistent software experiences for me while using this phone. I've had some apps crash that normally don't crash. And also even in the camera, when I was snapping and taking photos, some images just ended up green. Like I'll take a picture, have a picture, and then like a green square in the middle of these pictures. And it happened from time to time. It wasn't anything that happened a ton, but it's something that I experienced during my usage with the phone, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. So obviously there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the cameras, and so let's dive into the cameras. I will say that this camera produces a realistic shot, even in non-ideal lighting. These pictures around the house are taken with the standard lens with HDR on, and I think they look great. The camera is not looking to get rid of shadows, but they embrace the shadows and produce a realistic photo. Now, some cameras will try to make these dark areas a little bit too bright, and it could make an image look okay, but it's not representative of what the actual scene looked like. This camera does have a macro mode, and it works similar to the iPhone. It just activates as you get closer to the subject. I didn't find these images to be particularly great, but it's still a feature on a camera that's expected these days. I do find that portrait mode is a bit too aggressive with depth of field cutting off hair and other objects that should be in focus. You can adjust the depth before or after the shot, and I find myself moving it from the default f2 to around 5 or 6 to get everything in focus. Portrait mode doesn't handle motion well, and leaving a lot of my shots blurry when trying to track down my son. But in auto mode, I felt the depth was good enough to snag a great image. Also, I feel like portrait mode does lighten the skin a little bit, or maybe they call it skin enhancement. At the end of the day, I'm just not a huge fan of portrait mode. I think it works in some instances, but at the same time, it doesn't leave a natural shot for me. Now, speaking of auto mode, I did like it better than portrait. I think the colors are better overall, and I find the shutter to be really fast too. And once again, with a sensor this big, you can see the depth of field is solid even on auto mode. I do find inconsistent colors with each lens. The wide and ultra wide colors are cooler at times, and then the zoom lenses, you can see here in this barn photo especially, there are just a little bit warmer. Each image looked perfect in its own right, but I don't think it looked like they were taken at the same time of day. And also when you take a look at the zoom lens, especially the 5X here, a lot more noise is showing up. So it seems like the sensor isn't good at getting rid of noise and the fine details when you start talking about 2X and 5X. At night, this camera is really fantastic. These images were shot at sunset and they were amazing. Some of the best, not some, actually the best low light shots and night shots I've seen on any phone ever. There's also a pro mode, which you have all the settings you could ever want in a camera, but you know, I don't really use pro mode and I don't know many people who do when taking photos. And then you can go into more, and there's even more camera options like Astro, Super Moon, Pro Sports, and Double Exposure. I haven't had a chance to try out every single mode, but if they're anything like the other modes that I've tried, they will work really well. Now, video mode on this camera is nice. It does shoot up to 8K, but honestly, I don't have an 8K display to test it, but 4K looks really good. Now, shooting outside and even inside with decent lighting, video is solid. The colors are accurate and it's pretty stable. I wish the audio was a little bit better on the mic, but it's passable. There are new stabilization modes, standard, ultra, and horizontal line. The ultra stabilization uses the micro gimbal and EIS. It's up to 1080p and 60 frames per second, and it works well if you're running or walking. Then there's the horizontal line mode, which I didn't personally see a use for, but this is using the micro gimbal as well. This will prevent the phone from rotating in video mode. Regardless, there are tons of different modes for pictures and videos, and to me, I think this camera does live up to the hype. Is it better than what Apple and Samsung and Pixel are doing? It's really hard to tell for sure. You know, more time is needed, more scenarios are needed, but as far as low light, this thing is a beast and it's the best I have ever seen, period. This camera overall is legit and I give it a thumbs up. So all in all, guys, this is an amazing phone. It's really nice. The only thing for me is just how big the phone is, right? It is a larger phone and it's something that's just really hard for me to use personally. I really do love the cameras. I've talked about that a few minutes ago, how great the cameras are. I don't want to dive into that too much. And the software experience is sort of hit or miss. There's some good things about the software and the way the apps run, which is nice. And the specs of the phone is really good. But at the same time, just getting this software experience that is not consistent and these bugs that I keep seeing pop up every once in a while. And it's not really close to stock Android. So some of those things makes it hard for me to use on a daily basis. But of course, that is just my thoughts. You know, I love if the software get cleaned up and maybe get some more bands to make this available in the US a little bit easier. I can definitely recommend the phone. But anyways, guys, those are my thoughts and my opinion of this phone. I really am a big fan. Vivo did an amazing job with this phone. I'm just looking forward to the next version or maybe some software updates that can clean up some of the things I didn't like. But anyways, guys, just want to check this phone out. My name is Kevin the Tech Ninja. Hopefully you had yourself a great day. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.